Ahmed on behalf of the management, principal, teaching staff, non-teaching, and on behalf of student community. To just be aware of Mr. Ahmed, we have a profile on him, and I will just try to talk about it. Right, he was ex Karnataka startup cell associate who had been working with the government of Karnataka. He was into associate as an associate with marketing and outreach. Apart from that, he was also part of startup cell who has worked as marketing and outreach activities, implementing and promoting Karnataka startup policies. He has conducted startup yatras in the year 2019 across Karnataka for about 30 engineering colleges. He was also a part of team when Karnataka was adjudged as the top performers status in the state startup ranking awarded by DPIIT, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. Prior to this, he was employed at SAS's startup named Synup for business development and interned at couple of startups for brand management. And his core areas are into entrepreneurship in deep tech, health tech, D2C, SAS. Mr. Ahmed, it's an honor to have you on our webinar series. I would like to allow you to take over the charge of this program, and hope our participants will be really learning a lot on this particular domain. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me for this webinar series. And I would sincerely thank the college and the management and the people who have coordinated with me to make this happen. And I also thank the student who are joining in with keen interest. So let me get start with entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship, the way forward, is what is the topic for the day is today. So my dear students, request you to mute yourself. I would be throwing up some questions, so we'll start with a question today. You can unmute, answer the question, and get back to the mute mode. Okay, that is absolutely fine with me. So I think that should be fine with everybody as well. So what exactly is entrepreneurship? How do we deal with entrepreneurship? Why there is a lot of buzz around entrepreneurship, funding, raising money, IPOs, women entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship in areas which were not explored, something like an agriculture. It's called as agri-tech, something like medicine and health. It's called as health tech and med tech. So anything which has technology into it is driving its name. So how the way things have changed, things have transformed after the internet era, uh, with regards to an entrepreneur, with regards to the way of selling, with regards to the way of doing payments, and a lot of stuff. So everything revolves around entrepreneurship, idea, innovation, implements. So so I would want you to identify this person. So you can unmute yourself and answer. There's nothing but a right answer. You're not able to see the screen? Okay. I mean, if I show it this way, then the answers are very much there on the screen. Anyways, not at all a problem. So you please do type in your answers.
Abrar, you can do the slideshow, I guess.
Now?
No, I think you have to share the entire window for the slideshow. I think you have chosen only the PPT window.
No?
Yeah.
Is it visible?
No, it's visible, but it's not visible as full slideshow. What you need to do is you need to present the entire window when you share the screen. Then the slideshow will be visible. Full screen, yeah.
Okay. I think it should be fine now.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. So is the image visible?
Yes, it's visible, Mr. Abrar.
Okay. I just want answers. You can type in the answers, or maybe unmute yourself. I'm talking to the students. So students, you can unmute yourself and answer. Yes, no, maybe. Okay, so this person's name is Shashwat. So he's an IIT Delhi student. He's still a student. I think he's recently finished graduation from IIT Delhi in textile industry, and he is co-founder of Bharat Pay payments application. So he's the youngest person to get into the unicorn club. So, and the idea of Bharat Pay started in college. It started in IIT Delhi. So that seems interesting, right? So let me go for another question. Very easy. So this is Alia, Alia Bhatt, and Naika and Pool. So what is the connect? I'm expecting some answer from the audience. So are the audience able to unmute themselves, or how is it? I'm not getting.
Yeah, brother, like audience, what we have done is students are sitting in their respective department seminar halls.
Okay.
And
Okay. Then I'll continue.
seeing that.
So Alia Bhatt is an investor in Nika and Pole. So Pole is a startup which makes yeah, agarbattis and a lot of other products with the used flowers in temple. So Nika, of course, everybody knows it's a cosmetic brand. So let me get into the details today. So what exactly is entrepreneurship in a nutshell? So when two college going friends get stuck in a situation, so one knows a way out to get off the situation. So what is it I am talking about? So I am talking about an idea or a problem. So two of them going to the college but want to reach the college on time, but they are in a situation. One, without any second thought, will say, I have an idea to get out of this situation. So that's what an entrepreneur should be, vigilant. That's what an entrepreneur should be looking out in his day-to-day, in his day. So once he identifies the idea, so from a problem, an idea can come. So it wants to identify problem. Then so once you identify the problem, is going to for and how solutions are you building the which that happens as a process. Most are how a product or a solution is built around a problem, and how that problem can be how the solution or a product or a service can be scaled up to the next level. So if there is a solution for 10 people, how can it be scaled up for 100 people or 1,000 people or even more than that? So this is a difference, basic difference between an entrepreneur and a businessman. A businessman, a regular trader will get bananas for $150 and sell it for $250, but an okay, 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 okay.
Kindly share your screen. Screen has been disappeared.
Yeah. So I'll continue with this. Uh, so you can hear me, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's audible. Full screen. Can you do full screen?
So is it visible now? I'm sorry,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
struggling with
Abrar,
this.
it's visible now.
Uh-huh. Maybe the video, I switched out the video because it's
Yeah,
taking
it's
up
perfect
the
now.
bandwidth. Anyway, so that was the difference. I think you lost me somewhere after the definition, right? The students lost me somewhere after the definition. Taking a financial risk. So there is a slight difference between a businessman and entrepreneur, and there is a major difference between an industrialist and an entrepreneur. So as a businessman, he goes to the regular market, procures bananas, and at some operating cost or capex, and sells it for a minimal profit. Whereas an entrepreneur will procure the same bananas at the same price from the wholesaler, but he puts an innovation and sells it for a better price. So similarly, there's a very thin difference between a businessman and an industrialist, but a big difference between industrialist and an entrepreneur. So as we all know, Mukesh Ambani is a businessman, Ratan Tata is an industrialist, and Elon Musk is an entrepreneur. So how are we going to do this is very important. So this is a lean model canvas, which is very much relevant to anybody who want to start off at a very early age or any point in time in their careers. So first thing, as I was discussing earlier, is about a problem. So what is the problem? What are the types of problem, and have you identified the right problem? So it's very important to know that whether you have identified a right problem or not. And the second important aspect in this journey is the solution. So have you identified the solution? What is the solution? How best the solution will suit in? And the next important aspect is your unique value proposition or unique selling proposition, which we can term it as in once the product is ready. So it is called as USP or UVP. So how unique is your solution? How unique is your product or process? How unique is it from your competitor? If there are competitors, who are the competitors? You need to identify all these people at a very early age. So if there can be there cannot be a competitor for you at this point in time, but there can be a potential competitor in the future. So the first three blocks are very important. This is also called as the ideation phase for an entrepreneur or for a startup. So you have an idea, you have a problem, you've got a solution. So what is the unique part of your solution? So this the next important thing to identify is the advantage. So you might have a fair advantage or an unfair advantage. You might have a first movers advantage. You might have an advantage of tech over a non-tech. It could be anything. So an entrepreneur needs to figure it out. What is that edge? What is that advantage he or she has got in them, in their team, in their solution, in the way of dealing with the problem, which others are also dealing with it. And once you get the advantage right, you need to get back to your metrics. So how are you going to deal with stuff? How are you going to deal with competitors? How are you going to deal with your distribution system, your sellers, your vendors, right? So you need to have that numbers in mind. Very important is the numbers. So when I say key metrics, so the numbers are very important. So customer segments, you've identified a problem, you've got the solution, you know your advantage and you know your USP, but who can be your target audience and who is your customer is very important, right? You cannot sell baby products to another, right? You can only drive it, but the end user is a baby. So similarly, your target audience, your customer is a very important part of this whole game. You need to tap into the right customer. You need to identify a right customer, and you need to know how to drive the sales. So sales is the only department in an entrepreneur or in any of the enterprise which gets the money back into the system. Rest all is rest all the functions will take out the money from your pockets, but sales is only department. Sales is only area where the money is getting back into the system. And after customer segment, so how are you structuring your cost and how is the revenue coming back? How is the money getting back to the system is very important. So this is a canvas which I suggest all the students to work on it. Maybe whenever you find time for yourself, those who are very much interested in pursuing entrepreneurship as a career. So actually entrepreneurship is not a career, it is a way of doing things. It's way of solving problems. So that's how I would take it. So having said that, how are you going to do this? and who is going to help and support you. So as I was in Startup Karnataka and Government of Karnataka Department of IT, so there are a lot of uh, ways where people can support you in doing this, right? So you might need an R&D, you might need a lab setup, you might need financial assistance, you might need an incubation. So all this are given by Government of Karnataka as well as Government of India. So let me get into that in detail. So what are the government schemes for entrepreneurs? So who are the government schemes which are very much active? First is of course Startup India. Second one is METI Startup Hub. There is something called as Byrock. This is in specific for startups from the region of biotechnology. And there is Maharashtra State Innovation Society. And of course we have our own Startup Karnataka. So let me talk a bit about Startup India. So Startup India is a clarion call which is given by the Honorable Prime Minister in the year 2016. That's when Startup India's policy came in, and Startup India is to build a strong startup ecosystem for nurturing innovation and startups in the country that will drive sustainable economic growth and generate large-scale employment opportunities. So the government initiative aims to empower startups to grow through innovation and design. So there are a lot of other schemes with regards to Startup India. There is something called a SIDBI loan for micro entrepreneurs. There is venture capital scheme. There is STPI scheme. These are to name a few. You people can go and browse www.startupindia.gov.in. There are a lot of benefits which is given for person who for patent. There's reimbursement for marketing and patents, and a lot of stuff which Startup India is doing. So let me talk about the funding program which Startup Karnataka has. So Startup Karnataka, as we all know, Elevate was the call which was launched very recently, and we closed the application. And so far, Startup Karnataka has funded around 500 startups to a tune of 100 to 120 crores, ranging from all sectors, all business verticals and tech verticals, and across the state. So Elevate is the flagship program what Startup Karnataka is known for. It is not there anywhere in the country. Only Government of Karnataka does it. So how do we do it? Maybe I'll come to this little later. Um, these are the funding statistics. So let me talk a little about the METI Startup Hub. So METI Startup Hub, METI stands for Ministry of Electronics, IT. So it's a Government of India operated startup hub. So these people have different challenges. So recently they've concluded with the Health Innovation Challenge. They have an Open Innovation Challenge in association with STPI. They have a lot of challenges for students. So any student who has a product or solution for a problem. So recently they had a COVID challenge. So any student who has a product or solution can apply to these challenges, get a grant for yourself while you're still studying, and convert your group of team members into a registered entity, and then you can start your journey of being a startup. So similarly, as I told about Byrock is under the Department of Biotechnology. So Byrock abbreviates for Biotechnology Industry Research Assistance Council. So this is specific to biotech, health tech, and medtech startups. So they have funding called as LEAP and ACE funding. They have funding for social innovation startups, which is named as SPARSH. So lot of funding happening around biotechnology, health, and medical technology. So request students to be vigilant. Those who are interested can take it for further. And let me talk about Maharashtra State Innovation Society. Like Startup Karnataka, this is an entity for Maharashtra. They have various schemes. So the best part about their scheme is they give you a work order to deploy and pilot your products into the concerned departments. So here, any enterprise or an entrepreneur can apply. Even an individual can also apply for the scheme. So you need to be vigilant and go through the website. The website is www.msins.in, and you can apply for that. So what is the eligibility and who can apply for all this scheme is for a student entrepreneur in government of Karnataka. We have something called as the New Age Innovation Network, where around 30 to 32 colleges are a part of it. So the incubation centers are set up inside the college, and you can start off with your project. So once you're done with your projects, you can submit the projects to the government, and government will start funding you. If that group of student or a student who is interested to take that project for a next level, you can convert that team into an entity, into a registered entity. So the registered entities can be one person company, private limited, it can be private limited, it can be LLP, or it can be partnership firms. So these are the four constitutions where government of India as well as government of Karnataka takes it into consideration for you to become a startup. So proprietorship is not considered, Udyogadar is not considered, your MSME certificate is not considered. So for you to become a legal entity and apply for all these grants, challenges, um, any kind of rebates and reimbursements, so you need to be a private limited firm or a OPC private limited firm, partnership firm, or an LLP. So let me get back to about Elevate, because most of the students who are going to graduate want to convert their teams into startups and would like to apply. So who can apply here? So startups incorporated in Karnataka. So anybody who's crossed 100 crores in revenue will not be eligible to apply. So they need to be less than 100 crores, and they need to be less than 10 years from the date of incorporation. So 50% of the workforce should be employed in Karnataka. And there is a special scheme named as Elevate Unnati. So Elevate Unnati is for those entrepreneurs who belong to the SC/ST community, and 70% of the share of the company should be with the SC/ST partner or promoter. So how does Startup Karnataka or Elevate judge the startups? Is based on five important aspects. One is novelty, socio-economic impact, business model, team strength, and budget. So how novel is your solution, how innovative is your solution is very important. How is it helping the society? What is the economic impact which your product or solution is giving? How well is your business model designed? Who is there in your team is very important. And what is your budget so far, and what is your ask from Elevate program? So as I told, there are around 489 startups with total commitment of 116 crores. So these are the areas, industry sectors, technology verticals where government of Karnataka has funded so far. So the recent call is closed, and there would be another call coming up. So once students convert themselves into companies, can apply, or they can also reach out to the closest main center in their town. If they are very much interested, they can incubate themselves and start working on their projects. So these are some of the funded startups. So most of them are acquired, and some of them are from the tier 2 and tier 3 regions. File is acquired by Flipkart, and Janitri is their products are deployed in government hospitals. So similarly, we have a lot of success stories. And adding on to this, there are a lot of incubation centers in government of Karnataka, driven incubation centers, as well as private incubation centers in Bangalore and tier 2 cities, where startups can go ahead and avail the facilities. There's something called as IIM Bangalore NSR Cell Incubation Center, Derby Foundation for MedTech. There is Government of Karnataka Biotechnology Incubation Center in Manipal. So somebody is interested to explore in the region of biotech and various allied areas, you can go ahead and explore in those regions. So what are the other forms of incentives and concessions which government of Karnataka is supporting? Is IP marketing and tax rebate or tax incentives. So it's very hard to file a patent, draft for a patent, file for a patent, and get a patent granted, and it is a money consuming process. It's a money intensive process. So government of Karnataka gives you a reimbursement of up to 2 lakh for Indian patent, and up to 10 lakh for a patent abroad, a patent awarded abroad. So this is 100% reimbursement if an entrepreneur or a startup, a registered startup who are registered in Karnataka, and they have a registered certificate from Startup Karnataka, can apply for all these incentives. Similarly, on marketing, so now it is uh, no travel, but once the travel starts for international trade shows and participation, so startup can avail up to 30%. On this, likewise on GST. So in GST with respect to goods and GST with respect to purchase of goods, an amount is fixed for a startup, which can be given back to the startup as a reimbursement. Well, that's where the presentation from my slides. So let's make this interactive, and anybody has a question, you can shoot the question or type it out the question. So and you can ask any kind of queries or doubts, so we can get that sorted.
Well, Mr. Abrar, thanks for your presentation. Now we are open for questions. If any of the students or the faculties who wants to raise queries, they are free to open across. We have another 5 minutes for open discussion. If any students have personal queries, they can give it to the coordinators and they would be raising that queries for Mr. Abrar.
Yeah, the students can write to the coordinator, because most of them are hesitant to ask questions in public, right? So so they can give it to the coordinator, and the coordinator can forward it to me, and probably we can have it answered.
I think we have a question in a chat box, Mr. Abrar. Can just
Akshay Gautam has asked a question. It was mentioned that 2 lakh was given for a patent. What if the startup idea doesn't involve a patent but is related to tech? So it's not necessary that your startup idea should have should have an idea which can be patented, right? See, patents are done to safeguard your innovation. So it can be related to tech, cannot be related to tech also. So, but this is a reimbursement example, you spend money to file a patent, and your patent is filed but not yet granted. But you are a registered startup Karnataka, and you can apply for a reimbursement. It's like getting your money back once you apply. It's not like a grant is given to you. So grant is Elevate is the grant. Similarly, grant challenges are there, and NAIN also has some portion of grant, right? So it's not important that it's not a mandatory, but it's important to have a patent in case it's related to tech or non-tech. But safeguarding the innovation is the idea behind this, right? So anybody can copy your stuff once you're out in the market, so people can copy it easily, right? So that's why it is there. And 2 lakh amount or whatever you spend for patent drafting or filing, it is a huge amount for a startup. You can pay two people salary in that amount. So that's the support that's given by government of Karnataka. I hope I've answered your question, Akshay.
Well, if there are any more queries, we will take it up. Well, I find that there are no queries. So let's wind up with the session. So thanks, Mr. Abrar Ahmed, for throwing light on various aspects of innovation and entrepreneurship, where you are able to focus on certain issues related to incubation, and you are also able to provide us with various statistics on startups and what are the good number of startups which have been come up and how successful they are. And you also provided what could be the possible opportunities for setting up startup in Karnataka as well, and how to go about in various sectors to come up with different startup setting kind of it, and what are the different state supporting formats which have been provided by the state government for setting up startups. I think this insightful presentation would have great impact on our students as well as faculties, and it would be a stepping stone for coming up with our innovation and entrepreneurship cell in a work period of time. So I wholeheartedly thank you for your uh, time for coming over here and enlightening us on this particular topic, right? In the meantime, there is a feedback form which is provided through the chat box. It is requested for the coordinators to take care of the feedback form and circulate among the students as well, and try to fill that particular form by the end of the day or in coming days. Right. So I wholeheartedly thank Mr. Abrar Ahmed on behalf of the management, principal, the teaching and non-teaching fraternity over here. Thanks for coming over here. Thanks, Mr. Abrar Ahmed, once again.
My pleasure, Dr. Kiran. It was my pleasure to address the students. I hope students would have gained some insights. So, any interested student who wants to pursue or take it further from here can reach out to me. They can reach out to you, and you can reach out to
Yeah,
me.
yeah, that would be
Uh,
great. That's true.
yeah, and probably I'll also help them with a business model canvas. So let them do a bit of activity so that they would understand. Those who are interested to take up entrepreneurship
We wish to
as
have you on campus also, Mr.
yeah.
Ahmed. Yeah, the reason is like since we are in pandemic, once this IIC sets up into a formal environment, we
Uh-huh.
hope that you would be here and we will have a formal
Yes.
discussion one to one with the students as well. Right. We are also thinking of setting up a boot camp for
Mm-hmm.
startups like that, and few students have worked on certain projects as well. So
Mm-hmm.
hope you would also be joining us on that particular time frame. Hope it works out for everybody.
Yes,
Thanks.
yes.
Thank you for being here. I thank one and all. So we would be concluding the session for the day. Thank you.
Thank you.